back to the Ramayana series session. This is the part 4. The previous parts are all available on the YouTube for those who have missed it. You can just take a picture of this and you can go back to those links and see the previous parts. So you will get some continuity. But even for those who are attending for the first time, I think this part of the story is very familiar to all of us. Today we'll be talking about the Aranya Kandam. As usual, we'll start with the chants. Om. Jai Shri Ram. Janaki Kanta Smaranam. Siyavar Ramachandra ki. Bolo Bharat Mata ki. I usually start with the invocation prayer in each session. This time I have chosen a very different one. This is actually from Valmiki Ramayana, the Balakandam. Vishwamitra tells the story of Murugan, that's Subramanya, to Rama. And after the long series of verses about Murugan stories, he tells Rama is also called as Kakutsa. Bhaktaschayah Kartikeya Kakustap Bhuvimanava Ayushman Putra Pautraischa Skandasalokyam Vrajet. What this basically means is, in this world, whoever prays to Lord Subramanya, Murugan, will get long life, they will get good children, grandchildren, and when their time ends, they will go and be one with the Lord Subramanya in his world. Skanda Salokyam. This Salokyam is a very important word. What does this Salokyam mean? See, in the Sanatana Dharma, we say there is a process of attaining the God. And that comes in stages of evolution. That is, you evolve from an ordinary bhakta to a next higher stage, from then the next higher stage, and then the next higher stage. So these stages are mapped as 4 points. And those are Sarupya, Samipya, Salokya, and Sayujya. Now, what does this mean? Sarupya actually means that you are similar in form to the God. That means the things that you wear on your forehead, the kind of things that you wear on your chest, everything will resemble whatever is there in the God. So you have a superficial similarity to God. Same Rupam as God, Sarupya. This is the earliest stage, first stage of attaining Siddhi. Then as the sadhana progresses, you become Samipya. Samipya means Samipam. You are closer to God. And then you live in the same world as the God. That is called Salokya. But still you are distinct from the God. You are there in the God's world, but you are distinct from the God. And finally you attain Sayujya, which is the ultimate goal for any living being to attain. And this is merging with the God, Sayujya. We say Sayujya Padavi, which means it is the highest possible evolution that a human soul can take. Now, this may be easy to say, but it might have been achieved by some of those great rishis in the past. Is it possible for us to do? May not be possible in our lives to do all these things. So we need to have something which very closely mimics these states. And for this, Adi Shankara, who is the greatest guru, he gives us in his Shivananda Lahari 4 upayas which are going to achieve the same ends as Sarupya, Samipya, Salokya and Sayujya. If you do puja, then you attain Sarupya. If you meditate upon the God in your mind, then you become closer to God mentally. If not physically, at least mentally you become close to God. And then you have satsanga, being in the company of good people like all of you here. If you do that satsanga means that you are living in the same world as people who are rejoicing the same God, and so you attain Salokya. All these things are possible for every human being to do. It may not be possible to achieve those high ends which the rishis talked about in the past, but these are easy for us to do. So Adi Shankara says, do all these things, and that will be equivalent to getting all these stages of salvation. And finally, you become merged with the God mentally when you do dhyana. So these are the 4 simple upayas, mechanisms which Adi Shankara preaches to us to reach God in this fashion, in this world, with this body, and with our existing mind. And I think that is a very important lesson for us to take from today's talk. We are going to talk about the Aranya Kandam today. Aranya Kandam means the forest, the book of the forest, it's called in English. The forest is, of course, a physical forest. You have the Dandakaranya, then you have the Janasthana, then you have got the Panchavati, and then further down you have got the forests around the Kishkinda. So many forests are being traversed by Rama. So that is actually a story which occurs in the forest. That's the physical meaning. But there is also a metaphysical meaning. There is a metaphorical meaning, I will say. And what is that metaphorical meaning? It is a way of life, a jungle way of life versus the way of life in the civilized society. In civilized society, what happens is, if a person is very strong, very powerful, just switch off the phone, please. Somebody else can take it. Okay. In the city, the powerful, the mighty, the rich, they act to protect those who are weak, those who are the underdogs. It is not that it is only the survival of the fittest. The fittest will protect the weakest, the meekest. And that is how a society should run, a civilized society. Whereas in the jungle, it is not so. It's only power that matters. If a person is powerful, if an animal is powerful, it wins over everybody else. So that is the law of the jungle. So it is actually a conflict between a civilized way of life and the law of the jungle. And that's what is the whole story of, if you want to put it in a nutshell, the whole story of Aranya Kandam, it is just this conflict. We will be seeing various types of these conflict as we go along in the story. There are strict codes of conduct by which you should run your life, your business, your education, your morals. Everything is very nicely codified in a civilized society. No codes exist in the forest. It is those, and what rules the place is not a sense of fair play or justice. What rules the place is just greed, passion. These are the things that rule in the forest. So it is actually a conflict between these two various elements, and we often have to fight these conflicts within our minds also. And that is exactly the reason why we should study the Aranya Kandam well and take the lessons from the Aranya Kandam. Rama, he comes from a very civilized society. He's a man of high education. He's a man of high morals. And there is naturally bound to be a clash when he comes to a place where there is no law. It's all jungle rule. So that instant gratification seeking is the most important characteristic of a forest way of life. Whereas in the city way of life, we think of things, we think of the consequences, we think of what is going to happen. Is this right for us to do? How will other people look upon us? These are all things which a forest dweller does not bother about at all. So this conflict is, and this also happened during evolution, because all of us started as forest beings in the beginning, as when the human beings evolved. And later, when they started settling down in the plains, when they started having agriculture, when they started having, the city-like structures and all that, then all these rules and everything came about, and from time immemorial, we have been following those rules. This conflict is the essence of Aranya Kandam. So, we saw last time up to the place where the Bharata has left, and then that's the end of Ayodhya Kandam, and then Rama is entering into the forest. This forest is known as the Dandaka forest, and there he is greeted by the sages. It's not that the forest has got only the forest beings. There are also sages who are seeking loneliness of the forest to be able to meditate. And they request Rama to protect them from evil forces. When he meets all those rishis and sages, they say, look, these people are all troubling us too much, so you please protect us. You might wonder why people of such great, tapasvic powers, they have got tapasya with them. They can do anything at their will. All they have to do is to lay a curse upon the person who's troubling them. But they are not doing it. They are saying it is the duty of the king to come and protect us. We are not going to waste our powers, because these powers are all got by hard-fought meditation and thinking for a long time, and that is to be used for constructive purposes, for creating the Upanishads, for interpreting the Vedas, for making sadhana to achieve show the way to the posterity on how to achieve God. So that is where we should spend all our acquired tapasvic powers. We should not fritter it away on something useless like destroying an asura. So the powers obtained by tapasya or mental control should not be dissipated by emotional outbursts. So this is very important. We have seen several examples of sages losing their emotional control, making an outburst. That also has happened. But their aim is not to do that. Their aim is to utilize it for the greater good of mankind. Whatever their powers they have achieved by mental control, they want to use it for mankind. Whereas, because they don't want to waste it on, killing these asuras and, laying a curse upon them, they are requesting Rama to come and protect them. So the first asura that Rama and Lakshmana Sita and meet is called Viradha. This Viradha is a very hideous person, and he's a man-eating demon. He carries off Sita. So Rama and Lakshmana pursue him, and they sever his arms, but are not able to kill him, because he's got a kind of a boon that he can never be killed actually. So what they do is they bury him. This is also again an important lesson for us. That is, when we see evil, we may not be able to conquer it all the time. We may not be able to destroy it to the roots. There are often times when it has to be only kept under check. And one very good example for this is, the diseases like, diabetes, epilepsy. You cannot cure them. You can only keep them under control, isn't it? And I mentioned epilepsy specifically because of this example of Dakshinamurti. I'm sure you all have seen this Murti of Dakshinamurti. You can see that little demon, like a small child, which is kept under check under his feet. This demon is called Apasmaram. Apasmaram means ignorance. But Apasmaram also means, both in Tamil and in Sanskrit, it means epilepsy. So that is that outburst, emotional outburst that occurs. That's what is the symbolic representation of the physical disease of epilepsy. And what can be done to it? It can be kept under control. It cannot be buried altogether. It cannot be dealt away with altogether. It cannot be eliminated from the system. It has to be kept under check. And that's exactly what Dakshinamurti is doing by keeping the Apasmara under check under his feet all the time. So bad cannot be totally eliminated sometimes, and it can and must be kept under check always. And that is the lesson that we learn from this particular episode of Viradha. Then they go to another sage called Sutikshna. I just want to tell you a little bit about this picture. Where do you think I've got these pictures from? Some of the pictures I scored from free images on the net. But these pictures are ones we have created using AI. ChatGPT generated images. You give them in English language, you say that this is the kind of sage that I want to draw, and he has drawn this beautiful image of Sutikshna. So that is the power of technology now, right? So Rama asks Sutikshna to suggest a place where he can go and stay in the forest. Sutikshna says, okay, you can come and stay over here, but then there is a problem. We have a lot of wild animals that come over here. They may disturb your peace of mind. They may be frightening to Sita, who is so tender and who is such a comely young lady. And they create a lot of noise at night. So all this may be too much of a disturbance for you. So Rama, the typical Kshatriya that he is, he says, okay, let me kill all those animals. But Sutikshna says, no, don't kill those animals. We have to coexist with the animals. We have to learn to coexist with all these things. It is important to protect the flora, the fauna of the land. So don't go about killing everything that you don't like. See, that's a very good piece of advice that he gives because he's a very mature sage. And so he says, you can move away to another location further south of this Sutikshna's hermitage. And so you can go over there and settle down in a place which is full of rivers, flowers, vines, creepers, where you can have a more peaceful stay. So this is an important environmental lesson for us from Ramayana. Preserving the fauna and wildlife is vital. Just because you have the capacity to knock off a tree, you should not do it. Or kill an animal, you should not do it. Today it sounds very logical, but in those days where people probably did not show so much of concern towards the environment, this was a very gem of an advice for Rama. Then Sita, when they are walking along the forest, she becomes very concerned. Why does she become concerned? Because she says, you have said that you will kill all those asuras who are troubling these sages. Do you have any enmity towards them? Directly, have they done any harm to you? They have not done anything to you. How can you go and pick up the fight with somebody who has never done you any harm? Okay. They have not provoked you into a fight. Are you right in wielding weapons and starting a war? This is a very important international question now. Who started the war? Why did they start the war? Sometimes the war is started without any particular reason at all. When we have to live a life of an ascetic in the forest, we have been promised, we have said that we are coming here not to live as kings, or we are living here actually as ascetics. How can we go and pick up a fight with those asuras? This is her concern. So what she's basically trying to say is, don't be the prime aggressor. If somebody hits you, you can hit him back. Don't start hitting first. That is what is Sita's basic piece of advice. And Rama takes that suggestion seriously. He considers it, and then he gives him a reply. So you imagine the amount of respect that he has given to Sita's views. So what he says is, and he first praises Sita for having that concern, and he says, you have said very wisely, but the sages have asked me to protect them. So I am acting on the promise that I have made to them. And here he gives a very important declaration. What he says is, what this shloka means basically is, I might forfeit my life. I may forego Lakshmana. I may even forego you, but I cannot forego a promise. Once I have made a promise, that stands. That is the sanctity of attached to the promise that Rama is making. That too, that I have not made it to any ordinary people. I have made it to people of great achievements, people of great mental powers, seers. To them I have made this, and so it will be a very big sin for me to go back on my promise. So I have to deliver on my promise. So this again tells us the fact that if you make a promise, you should have the uprightness to hold it all the time, right? So from there they move on from Dandaka to the region near the present-day Nagpur, that's called Panchavati. There are 5 big trees, the banyan trees over there, that's why it's called Panchavati. And you see the way in which they are walking. Rama walks ahead, Sita is in between, Lakshmana is the rear guard. Agrata prayayo Rama Sita madhye shobhana pristhatu Dhanushpani Lakshmana Anujagamana. Anujagamana means it is not just following, it is following in full spirit and full willingness and with total surrender. That's what Anujagamana means. It's not just, and it's not somebody who's just keeping the rear protected. So this has been picturized as if it is the Paramatma who's leading the way, his Karunya, that is Sita, he's following, and the Jivatma follows in total surrender. So to show this, they have been walking in this manner, right? And again, this brings back to what we had said earlier in one of those previous episodes about how Sharanagati is important. Lakshmana is one of the best examples for total surrender to his Lord. Then they meet with this very short stage called Agastya. He gets a lot of invincible bow and inexhaustible quiver of arrows, and then they are directed to go further to Panchavati. On the way, they get acquainted with Jatayu. All these are ChatGPT pictures. And finally, we come to the episode of Surpanaka. All of you know this story. She is Ravana's sister, and she comes in the guise of a very beautiful woman, and she is enchanted by the beauty of Rama. She covets Rama, and Kamban has got a beautiful description of how she looks. You look at the words that are used in this. Panji olir vinju kulir pallava manunga senjaviya kanjamnigar sீரடியளாகி அஞ்சொலில மஞ்சையன அன்னமென மின்னும் வஞ்சியன நஞ்சமென வஞ்சமகள் வந்தாள். This whole poem has got only what we call as mellinum. That is to show what a melliyalal that Surpanaka came as, guised as. But what is there behind her? Nanjam. Poisonous mind is there behind her. And that's what is beautifully brought out in this excellent Tamil verse by Kamban. And what is the learning for us? Evil influences will not look evil on the surface. They will not look like demons or rakshasas and all. They will look like something that is very appeasing to you, something that is very attractive to your mind. So it takes on a deceptively attractive form to beguile us. And we should always be on the guard to find out whether it is really such a good thing or whether it is something bad that is disguised as good. Bad never comes in the bad form itself. It comes disguised as good. And that is the one that Rama sees through. Rama and then Lakshmana, they take Surpanaka's advances playfully at first. When she attempts to carry away Sita, because she says, Sita is not the fit person for you, I am the fit person for you, I am going to take her away and throw her. At the bidding of Rama, Lakshmana mutilates her. Now, this is a very troublesome thing for modern minds to digest. After all, what is she? She's just a woman who is driven by passion. And passion is not a big crime. It's not something that needs to be punished physically by cutting off or mutilating a person. At least nobody in this era would do that kind of a thing, maybe except in places where Sharia law exists. Everywhere else in the civilized world, this will not happen. Why did these people who are supposed to be embodiment of civilization do such a thing? So the people who have given the explanation for Rama say that this is all a part of the whole design. Because she has a personal agenda. What is the personal agenda of Surpanaka? Surpanaka's husband was killed by Ravana. So she has an axe to grind against Ravana. So she wants somehow to harm Ravana. If you have to harm Ravana, it is not possible for a single woman to do that because he is such a powerful and mighty person. So how can she harm? So she needs some kind of an ally. She thinks Rama would be the best ally. And if she has to do that, she cannot go and say, Rama, oh, please help me to destroy my brother. That will simply not happen. So she actually enacts a drama, and this mutilation and all that is only to increase the emotional appeal of that drama. This is what is the explanation that is given. You may agree, you may not agree. It may not be very acceptable to the modern minds, but that's how the story is, and we have to take the story as it is. And let me again tell you that this is all not story, it is itihasa. It happened. So we cannot question what has happened. It had happened, that's all. So there are several things for us to learn from this story, like the Ahalya story which we talked about, which is an emotionally disturbing thing for most modern minds. Surpanaka episode is also, it's going to offend our modern ethos and sensibilities. The other thing you must remember is this, maybe he just cut off the skin of the nose or a little bit of the ear. It's not a very big hurt. But what is important is that the emotional hurt that it costs, that is more long-lasting. This we also saw earlier in the case of the Huni story, the Mandara story, that the emotional hurt lasts much longer than the physical hurt. So it is the emotional hurt that propels her to go to Kara and Dushana and then to Ravana to complain and then get things going. The other learning is also nobody is entirely good or bad. Somebody who seems bad on the outside, like Surpanaka, may have some good intention behind. We should be able to see through the person to be able to get that actual intention of the person. So it's not the words, it is not the appearance, it is not that alone which matters. It is the true intention that is behind that you should be able to gauge and judge in everyday affairs. So she goes and complains to Kara and Dushana, who are very powerful cousins of hers and brothers. They go to fight Rama. First, they send the whole army of 16,000 people. When the whole army comes, Rama says, okay, Lakshmana also tries to help him. He says, no, I'm going to fight this battle alone. Single-handed, I'm going to win over all these people. So single-handed, he wins over those 16,000 people. Then all the generals that, like Trishara and all that, who were sent by Kara and Dushana. And finally, Kara and Dushana themselves get killed by Rama. So you see again, this conflict between the civilized society, conflict and the jungle law continues over here. So many examples of that continue over here. So this is my battle and I shall fight it alone. So when there are some battles to be fought, we need to be sometimes lone crusaders. There may be nobody else who is supporting us. But if we find that our cause is a justifiable cause, we are fighting for dharma, we should be able to say that we'll stand on our own legs, we'll fight the battle till the last, whatever may be the result. Okay? We'll see one more example of this in Jatayu after some time. Now let us look at what is, when Surpanaka sees that her other brothers are all killed, she runs all the way to Sri Lanka and goes and tells Ravana. Now she uses a very nice strategy. She does not say, okay, look, I have been discovered, something wrong has been done to me, please avenge it. That is not the way in which she is inciting Ravana into action. What does she actually do? She says, she praises Sita's beauty. If you see in Valmiki Ramayana and in Kamban's description, nearly 10 or 15 verses give Surpanaka's description of Sita's beauty. This is because Ravana is a person who has control over everything else except over his vigor or his sexual urge. She knows that very well. And that is why she wants to stoke the fires of passion. How can you do that? Only by saying, okay, Sita is such a beautiful lady, and she cannot be with one forest dweller in the forest. She has to be by your side. You are the king. You are the great man. She is fit for you. So you have to get her somehow. So that is how she is inciting Ravana into action. Because if it is just let us say, a disfigurement story or something, Ravana will most likely send one of his lower generals and say, go and kill Rama. That's what he would have said. He would not have come himself. She wanted Ravana to come himself. And that is because he has developed such a love for Sita just by hearing this description without even having seen her. And that is why he wants to come and capture her. The other thing that she's doing is she's stoking his ego, Ravana's ego, because Ravana thinks he's the most powerful person. And here is a man who has killed 16,000 people, 16,000 army, and powerful warriors like Khara, Dushana, Trishara, and all single-handed. So it is up to you to conquer him. If you don't conquer him, then you are not the strongest king on the earth. So this is how she plays up to Ravana. By playing up to Ravana, Ravana's fires of love are stoked. The fires of his ego are stoked. So he goes immediately to go and fetch Sita. So what this means is that though she appears to be saying something good for Ravana, actually what she is doing is she is doing something bad. And by that she is seeking revenge with Ravana. So she is self-seeking. So this is the strategy of self-seeking people. They will never put up their demand first. The self-seeking people would only couch it in such a way that it is going to be done by you. They force you to do it without you realizing that you have been forced to do it. Somebody has played upon your mind. And that is the strategy which Surpanaka employs so nicely. And we see like-minded people so many times in our life who are self-seeking strategists. Okay, the other thing that we also realize is that the lustful desire is something that is very, very, very difficult to resist. It requires great mental control. Ravana is no ordinary person. He's learned in all the 4 Vedas. He's celebrated as a great Shiva Bhakta. He's got all the good qualities in him. But this one bad quality of lustful desire, it brings him down. And because that's one of the most difficult desires to resist. So what does Ravana do? He wants an ally to help him in abducting Sita, which means he has to basically separate Sita and Rama for some time so that he can carry away Sita. So he seeks the help of Maricha. We saw Maricha earlier in the Balakandam. He is Tataka's son. And when Rama goes to fight Tataka, his brother is killed in the battle, but Maricha is just flung to the sea by the arrow that Rama shoots. He is not dead. But once he is hit by Rama's arrow, some kind of knowledge comes into him, and he says he gives up his Asura way of life. He sits in the forest and he meditates. He wants to become a sage. He is still an Asura, but he wants to become a sage. And that is the stage in which Ravana comes and meets him and asks him for help. Because he's got a specific capacity to change his form into anything that he wants. And that is the reason why he chooses Maricha over anybody else. Maricha is chosen only for his character of being able to change his whole shape and being. Maricha, in good faith, advises him. In fact, in Valmiki Ramayana, there are 2 entire segments, in which Maricha gives very good advice to Ravana. Do not do this. This is wrong. This is sinful. And you don't fight with a person like Rama. I know how his arrow feels like. So definitely, I would advise you to just forget about this and go back to Sri Lanka. All these things go on for a long time. But then finally, because he is so much smitten by the beauty of Sita, he says, if you don't help me, I'm going to kill you now. So Maricha knows he's already he's nearing the end of his life. Either he has to die at the hands of Ravana or he has to die at the hands of Ramabana. Only 2 choices. So he chooses to die by the hands of Rama rather than die by the hands of Ravana. So he acquiesces to the wishes of Ravana. and he says, I'll take on the shape of a golden deer and I'll go and entice Rama out. So good words will fall on deaf ears of those whose minds are shrouded in passion. If once a person is shrouded in passion, whatever you tell him, he's not going to listen. And that's what is the lesson that we learn from this segment of the Ramayana. And also, you can see that Maricha makes the right choice in a desperate situation. Actually, he's given a Hobson's choice. Either way, he's going to die. So which is a better method of death? That's what he chooses. If you get killed by Ramabana, at least you will attain heaven immediately, because all your sins are expiated and you are immediately transported to heaven because Rama has killed you. And that's a much better way of... So even in a desperate situation, he thinks. And Valmiki actually says that only after thinking over the matter, he says, okay, I'll rather die by Ramabana. And so he says, okay, I mean, he doesn't tell it to Ravana, but he thinks of it that way. And that thought process is captured by Valmiki in his poem. So this golden deer comes along, and how did this golden deer look? I have written a small poem in Tamil once, sometime in the past. Neelakkal olirgindra sringam, Neelambal vottadoru kannam, Kanagamena minnumadan agam, Palamanigal padittulla padam, Vanavil padikkumadan pucham, Janagi mogittada kurangam. What does it mean? Sringam means the antlers. The antlers have got blue stones, in them. And the cheeks are looking like blue lotus. The body is shining like, agam means body. Body is shining like gold. Pala manigal padittulla padam. In each of those toes or hoofs, various kinds of gemstones are there. And its tail is like a rainbow. It's so multicolored. So, Vanavil padikkumadan pucham. Pucham means tail. Janagi mogittada kurangam. So is it any fancy that when Janagi saw that, she immediately wants to possess it because it's so beautiful in its look. She doesn't want it to get killed. She just wants to possess it for him. So she tells Rama, please catch that deer and bring it here. That's all she says. So what does this mean? It's only Lakshmana who is able to see that this is kind of a deer cannot exist. It is simply not possible for such a fantastic deer to exist. So he argues with Rama. He says, no, don't go after this. This seems to be some ploy of some Rakshasa. They don't know that it has been sent by Ravana. So some Rakshasa. And that is when Rama forsakes his judgment because he wants to be true to his wife. It is not that Rama does not know that this is a lie. This whole thing is just a Rakshasa who is coming up as a golden deer. But for him, to satisfy his wife is a very important agenda in his life. And that is why he says, okay, I'll go search for it. Right? Then finally, in spite of Lakshmana's counsel, Rama goes after the deer and kills it. He doesn't want to kill it, he wants to capture it, but that keeps darting about, escaping him takes him very far away from Sita. And finally, when it gets killed, Maricha shouts. He wants to make it doubly sure that Ravana's end will come. So what does he shout? He doesn't say, ha. He just says, ha Sita, ha Lakshmana, in the voice of Rama. And that resonates throughout the forest. And then Lakshmana hears it, Sita hears it. This is where an important part of Ramayana comes. And this is treated very differently by Valmiki and Kamban. Valmiki says, Sita really tongue lashes him, fires at Lakshmana, even imputes motives to Lakshmana. He says, did you wait for this opportunity for your brother to get separated so that you can get me? I mean, that kind of accusation is an impossible accusation to make for Lakshmana, who is such a devoted person, who is following Rama like a shadow. And she makes that kind of accusations. But Kamban is kinder to both Sita and to Lakshmana. She says, I'm so distressed, I think my husband is dead. I'm also going to die. That's all she says. She doesn't berate Lakshmana. She doesn't impute any motives to Lakshmana. Right? The later versions which came up, in Bengali and in Telugu, the Ranganatha Ramayana and the Dandi Ramayana and all those versions, they talk about what is called as the Lakshman Rekha. I'm sure you all have heard of the story of Lakshman Rekha. Lakshman says, I'm going to draw a line around this hermitage. You don't step out of this. If you step out of this, there'll be harm to you. So these Lakshman Rekhas, though it is a mythical thing, it's a thing that did not happen. is something that we all have to imagine all the time. There are some boundaries which are simply no to cross. We have to draw those boundaries and we have to respect them in our life. And that is the lesson that we learn from this story. And also it means because of extreme distress, we tend to lose our cool, we tend to lose our reason, and this also breeds extreme distrust. When we are distressed, we become distrustful. So the two things are quite different and one breeds the other. So even imagining boundaries need to be respected. Then Ravana comes not in his asura form, but he comes in a garb of a sannyasi. Sita receives him as a guest. She's tense already because she's already heard that Rama is, in the Rama's dying cries or something like that. But then, even then, she takes her business of, looking after a guest correctly. Atiti Devo Bhava. So that is a principle with which she acts. But then, when Ravana keeps on talking about her beauty, she becomes suspicious. He tempts Sita, and when she refuses, he abducts her. Valmiki Sita is just carried away manually like this, just lifting by the body. But Kamban does not want to sully the repute of Sita, the what we call as karpa of Sita. And so he describes as if the whole hermitage is dug out with its roots, taken and put on the Pushpaka Viman and taken to Lanka. She's impressed in the Ashoka Vatika in Lanka, which you can still see in near Novarelia in Sri Lanka. So when she's being carried away, they meet Jatayu. Jatayu is already somebody who's become familiar to. We saw that after seeing Agastya, they meet Jatayu. Jatayu is actually Dasharatha's friend. He's a big bird, a big eagle. And when he hears the wails of Sita, what could he have done? He knows, okay, there's a big asura who is going. Why should we bother? Let us just run away. He could have done that. He didn't do that. Like a man, he stands up and he argues with Ravana, advises him once again, just like Maricha did. But Ravana is not a person who's going to listen to all that. And then, even though he knows he's old, Ravana is young and he's mighty, very powerful, very well armed. In spite of that, he goes and attacks Ravana. And for some time, Ravana is really distressed by the attack of Jatayu. Finally, because of the strength of the sword that was given to Ravana by Shiva, he is able to cut off the wing of Jatayu. So what do we learn from this? When we see something that is wrong happening in front of our eyes, we should be able to stand up to it. We should be able to say, no, you're not going to do this. That is the important lesson for us. And even if you know that we are going to fail in our mission, we should put up a brave battle. This may sound silly. If you're going to lose, why should you fight anyway? But that is because you are not judged by the results of your action. You are judged by your intention. If your intention was good, the world will praise you, you will get a place in heaven, and you will always be counted among the gods. If your intention is good, if you put up a just fight. And that is what is important from this story. So never be afraid to be a lone crusader, which you already saw earlier. Rama was one such, and Jatayu is also one such. You are judged not by the result of your action, but by the intent. Jatayu struggles to remain alive. Even after he's felled in the battle and he falls to the ground, he somehow holds on to his life because he knows that Rama and Lakshmana will come searching for him very soon. And when he comes there, he tells the whole story of the abduction, says that Ravana has taken away your wife, and I tried to fight him, I could not, I'm going to give up my life, and he gives up his life. And at that time, Rama, what could he have done? It's after all a bird who's dying and all that. He could have just left it and gone, but he doesn't do that. He does the entire samskara, that is the ultimate rites that are supposed to be done, just like how you do to your father, like how he did to his father when he was in the forest, when Bharata came to him. Exactly like that, considering Jatayu as his own father, he has done the entire rites over here. And this is supposed to happen near the region of that Le Pakshi, which is there in Andhra Pradesh, close to Bangalore. Le Pakshi, get up, you bird. But the bird is not able to get up because it's so mortally wounded. And he also tells them, you go further south, you will meet, you'll be able to probably get Ravana somewhere over there. They don't know where Ravana is hiding her. At that time, Rama becomes very distressed. He goes into despair. He says, no, I'm a useless fellow. I brought my wife to the forest, and she is now abducted by some stranger, some asura, and I have lived a totally useless life. This is the kind of feeling that he gets. But then, who counsels him? It is Lakshmana who counsels him. He says, no, we will go searching for her. We will get her. Let us have hope. So whenever you are in great stress, you should talk to people. Only when you talk to people, they will be able to counsel you. They will be able to make you see the other point of view. Otherwise, you will be wallowing in your own sorrow without being able to vent it out and without being able to get some sane counsel. Even if it is a younger brother, he can still counsel you very well. Then they come to an asura called Kabanda, and this Kabanda is actually a personification of many people whom you would see. He's just a headless torso. There is no head for him. He's only a torso. His eye is in the chest. His mouth is in the stomach, like something like a gastrostomy, you know. And he's got 2 long arms. Those are the most powerful parts of his body. 2 very long arms, which stretches miles. And he grabs everything that comes, anything and everything. Very greedy, whatever, moving, non-moving, whatever. He grabs it, puts it into his mouth, right? So he grasps everything within his reach and takes them to his mouth. His single eye is on his chest. So this is a kind of, he holds Rama and Lakshmana in his 2 arms. Vice-like grip. They just are not able to extricate themselves out. They think the end is near. Once again, Rama becomes despondent and says, look, after having lost my wife, now we have to die at the hands of this asura because we are just not able to release ourselves. See, the most important parts of a soldier's body are the shoulders. When you tie down the shoulders, they are not able to act at all. And that's what has happened when the arm is encircled by when the arm encircles the warrior and catches them. Now, what does Kabanda signify? It signifies man's insatiable appetite for base things in life, not for the higher things in life, all the base things in life. And he will not leave any opportunity to grab and satisfy that hunger in him. Hunger is not just the physical hunger, it is also the metaphorical hunger. And that we see a lot of people who are never satisfied with the amount of power they have, the amount of money they have, the amount of influence they have. They want more and more and more and more of it. And that is what we learn from the Kabanda episode. So at that time, they do some quick thinking. They say, okay, what is the strength of this person? The strength of this person is his arms. So if you're able to cut off his arms, his strength is gone. So what they are doing is a strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat analysis. That's what they are doing when they are in such a desperate situation. They are both being held. They cannot even breathe at that time because they are being grasped by Kabanda's arms. At that time, they do what is called as a SWOT analysis, which is a very important thing in management. A SWOT analysis they do, and they talk to each other. They tell them, look, let us make an attempt to cut off his arms. So somehow they extricate their one arm. They use their sword and cut off their arms. And then Kabanda resumes his original form. He's actually a Gandharva who is cursed into being like this. So he resumes his Gandharva form, goes to the heavens after his death as a Gandharva. And he also gives suggestions to Rama on how to find Sita. He says, you go and meet Sabari at Matanga Muni's ashram. From there on, you go to near the Pampa lake, Rishyamukha Parvata, where you will meet Sugriva, who will be able to help you. All these things he's able to foresee and tell because he's a supernatural being. He's a Gandharva. He's not just an ordinary human being. So what does this mean to us? It means that you have to do this kind of SWOT analysis even in situations of great distress. There will be one chink in the armor somewhere which you can penetrate. And that chink here they exploit it. So never lose hope is the message of this story. And he was actually looking like a foe. When they were being crushed by his arms, he was looking like an enemy. But ultimately, when he's killed, when he becomes a Gandharva, he becomes their friend. So foes can become friends, friends can become foes. All these things can happen. Nobody is ever permanently a foe. Nobody is ever permanently a friend. This is another important lesson that we draw from this episode. Then the last episode in the Aranya Kanda is this Shabari episode. All of you are familiar with the story of the old lady Shabari, what has happened is she is working just as a servant woman in the ashrama of Matanga Muni. A lot of people are learning the Vedas, the scriptures, and high philosophical things. She listens to all that, but she doesn't understand most of it. She's a very simple, ignorant woman, we can say. And all her aim is just to serve her guru. She's got that one single aim. Her guru was Matanga Muni. And Matanga Muni, before departing from there, says, You wait here. We are going, but you wait here. You wait here till you see Rama. This has been said several years back. She grows into an old lady. Until then, she keeps on waiting for Rama to come. So what does it mean? She's got an implicit faith in what her guru has told her. This is the era in which that implicit faith is lacking. We don't have that much trust in people. We don't have that much trust in our gurus. And that is something that we should sort of restore as if you want to progress in life. And then you know about the story of her giving fruits to Rama. She picks up all the forest berries and then she gives them. Valmiki says she gave so-and-so berries. Kamban also says she gave so-and-so berries, sweet berries, that's all. But the later versions of Ramayana, the Ranganatha Ramayana, the Odiya Dandi Ramayana, they tell you the story about how she bites into each fruit, finds out if they are tasty, and then gives it to the god, gives it to Rama. So Rama doesn't say, okay, this is containing your echil, I'm not going to eat this. He looks at the love behind, the intention behind. That's what I said. You are not judged by your action, you are judged by your intention. The intention is one of pure love for Rama. And that is why he says, I will take these fruits and eat it. That is the person of Rama. So from there, after having done this, she rises to the heavens, liberated from the whole samsara sagara, because she has been able to offer something to the God himself, which pleases him very much. So these are the things that we have to take away from this story of Shabari. We have to have more faith in what our elders say, what our gurus say. There is some value in patient waiting. Things don't yield results fast. You have to wait for a long time for things to come through. And then, finally, the love of the Lord is far more important than the correct procedure. You may not know the agamas, you may not know the mantras, you may not know the bhajans, you may not know anything. But as long as you have love in your heart, God there is going to see it. And that is what we learn from this episode of Shabari. With this, we come to the end of the Aranya Kandam. Now, I usually end my talks with a beautiful image of Rama. Today, I'm going to show you one such image. This is in a very small village called Adambar, which is close to Nannilam. I've shown you where it is on the map, on the Google map. Adambar. This is a part of what is called as the Pancha Rama Kshetras. Around in this, Nagapattinam, Tanjavur districts, you've got 5 temples which are devoted to Rama, all of which have beautiful statues of Rama. We already saw Vaduvur and Tillai Valagam in the last 2 talks. And today I'm showing you the picture of Adambar. Why did I bring this picture of Adambar and not the other 2 today? Because if you see in the corner there is a deer that is standing there. This is the only place in the world where Maricha is also made into an image in the Garbhagriha along with Rama. Because Maricha is not an evil person. He actually abets the killing of Ravana by Rama. He's helped Rama. So just like Anjaneya has helped Rama, Maricha also has helped Rama. So this is how we should understand the story, and that is why this picture, this image of the Maricha Man is there in this particular temple. This is called Adambar. It's actually a Ranganatha temple, but you see the image of Rama, and that's the most famous image of Rama in that particular temple. The other 2 are Mudikonda and Parthur, which I hopefully will show you in the next few talks. And all through today, we have seen about the strength of Rama, the valor of Rama, the quality of his shoulder. And Vedanta Desika has actually composed what is called as Raghuvira Gadyam. Gadyam is actually a prose. Gadyam does not mean poetry. Gadyam is prose. But it is almost like a tongue twister, It's very difficult to pronounce it. And this is sung by a person called Sri Lalita Bamidipatti. It's also sung by more famous singers also. I think in a movie about Vedanta Desika, it was sung by Abhishek Raghuram. And she has taken the same tune and she has sung it. And I'll just play this for you. Listen to this.
Suta Kumara Bhava Kanchukita Karana Kara
That is the word that I have quoted there. So what that particular line was, Pranata Jana Vimata Vinavatana Dhaurlalita Dhaurlalita Jaya Jayadi. Victory to your shoulders. Hail to thee, O Raghuvira, shining with the fearsome shoulders that engage in the destruction of the enemies, of those who seek refuge at your feet. The rishis of Dandakaranya, they sought refuge at his feet, and he was able to protect all of them by killing all those people because of his might of his shoulders. And that is what is celebrated in this particular verse. In fact, everything is laudatory of the power, the might of Rama in this Raghuvira Gadyam. And that is sung so beautifully by this girl. You will find some mentions. I mean, I'm sure many of you would have received WhatsApp forwards claiming that this is Jesudas's granddaughter. But she's not Jesudas's granddaughter. You can go and see it on her Instagram page. You can see it on the YouTube. It is sung by this girl from Andhra Pradesh. So, with that, we come to the end of today's talk. Jai Shri Ram.